Okay. Hello guys, it's Sue. Welcome to Overthinkers Society. Before we get to the episode, I just wanted to let you guys quickly know that my new song, Wide Awake, is out on all streaming platforms and all music download platforms. So if you haven't listened already or shared already, it would be great if you guys could head over and take a listen. I've written Wide Awake for fellow dreamers out there who are striving every single day in wherever you are. In my case, in my little box room, and it's sort of a love letter for the future us that will be at a better place and hopefully we'll have achieved many of the things that we have set out to achieve. And if you have already listened to it, thank you. Keep listening and sharing. In the following episode, I talk about some of the things that I've learned from living in this room and almost always spending time alone with myself. I've learned some practical lessons over the last months, and I'm still learning and I'm still adjusting my lifestyle patterns and trial and testing, but I thought it'd be helpful for some of you who are going through similar situations to share some of the practical lessons that I've learned so far through this lifestyle. I hope you guys enjoy this episode and see you guys. Boom, 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 boom. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Overthinkers Society. Welcome. If it's your first time listening to this episode of Overthinkers Society, then welcome. There's a place for everyone in the comments for now, but this could be a talk show in the future. You never know. But for now, it's a place for everyone to overthink freely and just be yourselves, and it's a safe haven for everyone to ramble on, vomit out thoughts, because sometimes it's better to ramble and rant rather than think about things over and over and over again in your head. Sometimes things are a lot worse in your head than it is when you say them out loud, and even written out sometimes. So yes, welcome. Welcome to a place where I talk about stuff that are stressing the hell out of me. It's been a while. Actually, also, if you're coming back and you're watching another episode after having watched other episodes of Overthinker Society, welcome back. Thank you for watching. It's been a while since I did one of these kind of solo episodes. If you've been watching, you would know that I've recently been bringing in guests in different fields. I've brought in an artist. I've brought in a fashion stylist and costume designer. I've talked with a very cool inventor who invented PowerShell at Microsoft. I've talked with a few people so far, and yeah, it's been great fun talking with guests over and just rambling on about their expertise and me asking some really stupid questions and going on tangents and nitpicking on other people's life experiences and expertise. It's been great fun. But I also wanted to today just kind of lay back and do one of these solo episodes where truly overthinking for the first time in actually a while. It's been a while, but I wanted to do this. Today I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've learned through self-isolation. That's something that I wanted to talk about. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about as well. I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking about it as well because obviously we're, many parts of the world are still in quarantine and, things are getting better and, there are talks and the things at bay with the vaccine being invented for COVID. But, still in many parts of the world, we're very much still in quarantine and we still need to be alert about things. In Korea, we never had a proper lockdown. We were never asked to adhere to these very, very strict rules where we couldn't meet other people. We could not, all the stores literally had to shut down for the entirety of a few months. And people were kind of laid off from work. And, we never really had that much of an extreme quarantine, but people have been struggling. People have been stuck at their homes out of precaution, but also because it's the right thing to do. I myself have been in my room for a while now, as a lot of you guys would know from watching all these videos that were literally like 99.999% based in my room. You would know. And I have to admit, frankly, that this was not 100% due to COVID, but because of the nature of my occupation as a bedroom musician and bedroom producer and video creator. I am just kind of, this is the nature of my job, I guess. This is my workplace for now. This is where I create. This is where I shoot videos. This is where I edit videos. This is where I make music. So it's kind of, I've naturally been in quarantine, if you will. It's so, so I've been doing this for almost a year now. I mean, a little over a year now. This quarantine life, this kind of natural quarantine life. And I feel like there were some ups and downs to this. Obviously, I hear people saying things like, they've learned so much, not just about other things, from books and like articles and self-improvement stuff, but to like about their own selves as well. Like I hear people saying that they learned more about themselves than they ever have through this quarantine life, and I feel the same way. It was kind of like being put in a situation where I was spending so much time with myself, and by so much time I mean pretty much 24/7. I was kind of almost forced to reckon with stuff that was going on in my head that were never really consciously recognized before. I am, and when I say this, I don't mean just like in a kind of spiritual woo-woo way, like, oh, who am I? What is the self? What is the meaning of life? Of course, these things I question on a daily basis, of course, but also on a very practical level as well, which is something that I wanted to mainly focus on today's episode. My life has changed drastically since starting music, and I think the biggest change was that my lifestyle completely kind of shifted. Obviously, I chose to walk away from the standard 9 to 5. It was my choice to walk away from it because I knew it wasn't my thing, and so there I was, here I am doing this kind of bedroom artist's life. And I'm only just starting to unveil the tip of the iceberg, uh, lifestyle adjustments that comes with this new lifestyle. I am far from mastering this, but at least I think I'm beginning to uh, realize and recognize these kind of little life hacks that I've been able to unveil by being in my room all the time and spending so much time in myself and, being in this almost unorthodox life schedule on a practical level. Things like diet, things like work time, work hours, things like break hours, things like sleep. These things were completely thrown off the rails ever since starting music. And I gotta admit, it's been tough. It's been tough trying to kind of, discover what works the best for me. Because it was almost like, I like to say that I personally experienced like a mental anarchy ever since starting this journey. I've literally been experiencing anarchy because it's like not necessarily on a political sense, obviously, but on a mental kind of spiritual level, because all of a sudden there were no rules. I was in the middle of nowhere, you know, having no sleep schedule, no set sleep schedule. No one was telling me when to get up to go to work, when to come home back to work, back from work. No one was telling me when was the best time to eat. And no one, there was obviously no lunch break. I could technically take 5 lunch breaks over the course of the evening or the afternoon, and nobody would tell me off. And I would still be able to do it, I would just be really unproductive. That's it. That's all. And nobody was telling me nobody was telling me when the most acceptable time to go to sleep at was, or, you know, nobody was telling me what to do as well. So for me, it was like complete anarchy, and it was almost like building these kind of structures to adhere to when living life from ground up, from completely from scratch. And this whole like anarchy concept and this whole like building this lifestyle up from scratch was only a recent realization. Up until that point, and when I say recent, I mean like very, very recent, like only just a week or two ago. Prior to that, I was just really confused. I was I was just feeling really lost for no reason. Feeling lost without feeling like there was a reason. But now I'm starting to realize that the reason is because I am put in a situation where I need to make my own rules. And I think that is one of the first realizations that I've had from self-isolation, that I do need rules. Um this is I think rules, like quote unquote rules, it gets a bit bad rep because it's like, like in that Joji song where, oh, frick the rules, oh, frick the rules. And that's not the song. But he does sing about, frick the rules. It's, I think, if you think about it, though, there is no such thing as a rule. There is no, there is, well, I don't know what I'm saying. There is no such thing as a no rule. There's always a rule. We just don't know that there was, well, actually, I take that back. There could be a case where there are no rules. Like I said, I was living a lifestyle where it was the Wild West. Everything was the Wild West. No sleep schedule. I can sleep and wake up whenever I want it. I can eat whatever and whenever I want it. It was the Wild West. And what I've learned from this, what I've learned from experiencing this Wild West, no rule, anarchy field, that having no sets of rules whatsoever is actually complete hell. It's hell because it doesn't give you any freedom. You're always constantly striving to be the best version of yourself 24/7. And that in turn leads to crashing because you're trying so hard, but also you're not even being productive. You're just trying really hard to be the best version, and you don't even know what your best version is because there's no rule to tell you what the best version is. And now, I think it's one thing to realize that you do need sets of rules to live a fairly mentally sane life, and a completely different thing to be put in a position where you're following rules without any questioning, and rules that are set by other people that you don't necessarily agree with. And I think it's really more so the latter that needs to get the bad rep, and really the former, the fact that we do need rules, and the fact that we can actually, at least in my case, I need to set rules, certain rules for myself to live a sane life. And when I say this rule, I mean like on a practical level. I think on a creative level, in terms of things I can create, the songs that I can write about, the compositions, the doodles that I can make, and artworks that I can make, and videos that I can make. In terms of the creative side of things, I really see no boundaries. There are no boundaries whatsoever. But as a human being, as somebody who needs to function and eat and sleep on a practical level, we do need to parent ourselves sometimes, and that's something that I'm slowly starting to realize. I think, I've oh, my stomach just growled. I've been continuously saying that I have no idea how to take care of myself, and I really don't. I have not still figured out I still have not figured out my diet. I still have not figured out my sleep schedule. And I still don't do my laundries often enough. I still don't wash myself often enough. And I still don't adhere to my skincare routine often enough. And it's just all these things. I know I've been saying it, but recently I've been having too much of these kind of lifestyle crashes to a point where it's just kind of forced me to reckon with it and really try to, at least really try to see what the underlying problem is. And so, yes, that's lesson number 1. Rules on a practical level to live are needed. Rules in and around the subject of sleep, eating, exercise, reading, self-education, and, taking care of your mental health. That includes how much access you have, how much exposure you have over things like social media and just general big media in general. These things I need to, at least, really kind of set some ground rules and discipline myself to stick to, at least try to stick to, and trial and error as well, because I don't know what lifestyle is right or wrong. I gotta test out myself, hands-on to see if it actually works. But yes, I'm realizing the need to parent myself because I'm not a child anymore, but I am in a way. So therefore, I need to sometimes be a grown-up for myself, for my own sanity. That is one of the lessons that I learned from self-isolation and spending a lot of time in my room and with myself. Pretty basic stuff probably for some people. But man, this took a while for me to realize. Yeah. I think another rule, no, frick the rules, frick the rule talk. Moving on to the second lesson, is I wanted to touch upon to-do lists. Lists that entail stuff that I need to do. That in and of itself obviously isn't a life lesson learned from isolation. It's just a topic. And frankly speaking, I still don't know if to-do lists are a good thing or a bad thing. And I think there are different ways to structure a to-do list. There are different ways. I think, there is no like set structure. I think the most straightforward way, I guess, would be to just list all the things that you need to do for the day and have a check box available for you to check off next to it. I've actually got one myself written out right now. And one of them including filming this. So I guess I'm on track, at least for now. But I think I've touched upon this briefly on a blog post that I made on Patreon, that the guilt that comes from not having fulfilled the stuff on the to-do list is sometimes really devastating. I guess it just kind of goes back to the rule thing, because you're the person, when you're writing a to-do list, especially as a creator and as like a freelancer, as a self-employed person, you're the person who's setting these things to do for the day, to tick off for the day. And when you have not accomplished as much as the things that you've set out to do, as much as you want, then my overthinking brain translates that as a failure. That's a failure, and I have failed myself. And I go beyond that. I failed myself, not only myself, but you guys. I failed my audiences. I failed my listeners. I failed my family. And that's the toxic part of an overthinker's brain. But it does on a certain level translate as failure, because technically you have not done what you set out to do. I think the underlying problem is a lack of realistic expectation that you have for yourself and your abilities. And I think that really just comes down to trial and error. Again, you gotta fail. You gotta have days when you fail to do all the stuff on your to-do list. You gotta have days when you've finished all the things on your to-do list, but somehow have so much leftover time of your day. So that's a failure in its own sense, that you have failed to set goals that are adequate amount for the day. You've set too little, basically. And you also have days when you succeed, when you've ticked off all the things on the to-do list. You feel great, and you have just enough time to eat and exercise and connect with your family and educate yourself, read some books and do have some me time, basically. It's a balance. I think balance. And trial and error, especially when it comes to to-do lists. I think trial and error is key, and uh I'm still in trial myself. It's I still find it challenging, but I think one thing that I know for sure is I think it is I think to-do lists in general are a good thing to have. Uh it's it gives you a bit of a kind of succinct picture of what you want your ideal day to look like. Uh Obviously, like I said, your ideals need to kind of adjust accordingly to your energy levels and your conditions and your lifestyle, and that's down to balancing and trial and errors. But I think to-do lists in general are a good thing. I think are healthy thing to practice at least, and give it a try. I'll update you guys how this all goes, how this little self-social experiment goes. Well, no, it's not a social experiment if it's just me. Anyway, I'll I'll let you guys know. Maybe I'll do a little solo episode on just to-do lists in the future. How it goes. See how it goes. Another lesson learned from self-isolation is it seems that naps don't seem to do me much good. And that's a surprise because you know there's the whole like rave about like the craze about power naps. Like, oh, power naps are like all the great historians and the figures in history have used the power of power naps to boost their productivity and awaken their geniuses within. And and maybe it's also something that I need to get into the habit of. But and there are certain, you know, like requirements for power naps apparently. You can't it has to I think it has to be less than 30 minutes. I think the sweet spot is like around 15 minutes to like 28 minutes. I don't know what the science is behind the 2 minute difference between 30 minutes and 28 minutes, but it's probably science stuff. And power naps have to be in between like 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. There's also this thing called like caffeinated sleep, where you drink caffeine like coffee right before you take the nap, which sounds counterintuitive, but the theory is it kind of gives you a jump start for when you actually wake up from the nap, because caffeine takes around the same time it takes for you, the duration of your power nap. The theory is by the time the caffeine that you ingest starts to kick in, it's time for you to wake up from your power nap, therefore giving you not just the boost from the power nap itself, but also the caffeine that you consumed. Yes, okay, all this sounds amazing and sweet, in theory and on paper, but from my experience, it freaking takes 30-40 minutes for me to even fall asleep in the first place. That's the first problem that I encountered. And no matter how much I seem to try, I can't fall asleep in less than like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It takes literally just as much time for me to fall asleep, sometimes even more than the actual duration of my power naps, or the duration of the naps that I'm supposed to take, which is 15 to 30 minutes. Problem 2 that I encountered was if I do succeed in falling asleep during the proper good nap time, I can't wake up after 28 freaking minutes. And that's the maximum.
it's when I fall asleep, it has to be at least a little bit over an hour. And usually from my trial of trying it for at least like 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, 3 weeks, I always end up waking up after like 2.5 hours, leaving me feeling nothing but guilt. And also feeling a bit fresh because I've just taken a 2.5 freaking hours of nap. Um, but it also, obviously throws throws away the whole like proper sleep schedule. I end up not being able to sleep properly at night if I do end up spending 2.5 uh, hours on taking the nap. So it becomes like a vicious cycle for me. And I guess the key for me is, I guess, could be the duration of the nap, but I always end up feeling really deprived. Um, if I get, if I like force myself to wake up after 28 minutes. If the alarm is set, if I, if I set like 16 alarms and I can't, I have to wake up. I'm literally forced by the alarm clock to wake up. It takes me like at least an hour and a half to like reboot my mentality to do work and to go on with the day. So I just find everything really unpractical. I think naps don't just generally work. I could probably like test this out and really try to discipline myself to do this power nap thing um, for a few more weeks, but I really don't like from my experience so far, it's just not working. It's not worth the almost 2 hour, 3 hour journey of trying to fall asleep and then actually falling asleep, but having to wake up in the most crankiest state ever and to reboot myself and wake myself up from that nap, from the aftermath of waking up with deprived hours of sleep for another hour or so. It's just not worth it, in my experience. I think rather, and this is probably like kind of borderline lesson 3 that I've learned from self-isolation, is I think it's more healthy for me and my kind of body and my bodily condition and my lifestyle and my personal preference to say no naps, but set bedtime. Is I know maybe this is like, oh, a no-brainer, like duh, you need to have a bedtime, you need to have a waking up time for some people, but oh man, for me, like this is like a like this is something that uh is a revolutionary revolutionary kind of shift and mindset, uh kind of determination in my life. For me before, it was kind of going to sleep whenever I felt like it, waking up whenever I felt like it. And that probably didn't obviously do any good with my insomniac tendencies. I've always had trouble sleeping more than like 4 or 5 hours growing up, and so ever since being in isolation in my room, it's been extra difficult for me to uh, get proper sleep at proper time that I'd love myself to be asleep. Um, and I realized recently it's because I've never forced myself to sleep at a certain time or wake up at a certain time. And I think one of the reasons why was out of fear that, oh, like if I Like if I don't get like 7 hours, more than 7 hours, 6, 7 hours of sleep every night, then or or rather like every time I go to sleep, if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, then oh my gosh, I'm gonna crash the next day. Uh, when I actually need to be woke. Uh, and I think my recent realization was that actually, Sue, if you don't go to bed at your set time and you still have to wake up at the set time and get like 4 hours, 3 hours of sleep, even, that's your fault. That's your bad. Learn from that lesson. Still no naps, but you got to learn from that lesson and go to bed at the at the time you are asked to, which is from myself, the parent side of myself. It's it's a construct that I think that needs to be adhered to in order to discipline my animalistic tendency to just slack off and sleep whenever I want to and wake up whenever I want to. Um, Lack of sleep, I think, gets a bad rep for obvious reasons because, if you don't get enough sleep for a prolonged period of time, then it has a very, very serious effect on your body. I think everybody knows that. But I think a fair amount of cases where you lack sleep and experience the consequence of having lack of sleep, it can kind of catapult you into realizing that, oh, okay, if I don't want to feel like crap the next day after having 2 hours of sleep, then I'd better freaking go to bed at 11:30 tonight. I think it's I need to like give myself some tough love. So yeah, I am currently making myself go to bed at around 11 p.m., 12 p.m. 12 a.m., I mean, at night, and wake up at around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., which I know 8 hours is like the standard sleeping hours, but from my life experience, it's been very rare for me to sleep 8 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. For me, it's a miracle if I can get to sleep more than 3 hours, consecutive hours. So, and I usually function very well on 6, 7 hours. I think 7 hours ideally, but even on 6 hours, I'm able to perform fine. If I get 4 hours because I slacked off and ended up watching YouTube's till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, then, well, looks like the next day is going to be a bit of a tough one, but there are no naps allowed. So you got to just learn from that experience and go to bed at your bedtime the next day. Yeah, basically I'm learning how to parent myself. It's I guess it's like all kind of part of growing up, I guess. And I know like a lot of people initially experience this kind of growth, I wouldn't say spurt, but I feel like that's the only thing that I can think of right now. This growth spurt when they go independent from their parents, when they go to college or university or, graduate to for a new job as such. And I myself experienced similar things, but I think it's just, I don't know, maybe that's just the way my brain works, but I seem to more actively work on these kind of things like lifestyle changes and learning from my lifestyle mistakes. And I need to be more actively aware of these things and the fact that I'm adjusting my lifestyle and improving my lifestyle in order for me to actually see the problems as they are. Almost kind of like labeling, like I need to list things that need improvement in my life. Like, okay, Sue, your diet sucks. So eat this, eat that, eat this, eat that. Not like in a very, very, very like army like strict way, but I do need some like seems like I do need some like parenting guideline for myself sometimes. Otherwise, it just becomes this kind of loosey goosey kind of thing where it's like, oh, I'm just working on personal well being, but I'm not actually working on personal well being, so I'm just gonna watch YouTube videos till 4 a.m. in the morning, haha. So it's got to be like a tough love for myself, parenting for myself, and I'm only just starting to realize. So yeah, naps don't work. Bedtimes and wake up times I'm experimenting with seems to be doing well. Yes, another lesson I've learned from self isolation is break time, and this could entail sleep, like I just covered, but I think I mean break time more in the sense of time that is not allocated to work. And I am blessed to call my work something that I am so passionate about and something that I truly enjoy. And, I enjoy every single minute of it. It gets tough sometimes. I experience the same uncertainties and the struggles and the the things that come with the life of a creator, I guess. But I also it just the enjoyment that I get from communicating with you guys, live streaming, reading your chats, live chats, and seeing your comments, responding to your comments, making videos that could make people smile, making songs that could help bring some solace to people. All these things outweigh the negativity that sometimes comes with my work. But it is work. Work is still work, and I recently realized that I am a workaholic. This was a very recent realization as well. It came from a retrospective, looking back to my past lifestyle, especially since starting this journey as a musician, an artist. By looking back, I realized that I was spending a very, very, very disproportionate number of hours on my life, on my work, as opposed to the hours spent on kind of personal, outside of work stuff, like reading for the sake of reading, not just like for self-improvement, but just like reading for the joy of reading, exercising, and one big thing that I do want to touch mainly upon is consuming other people's contents. That's a big thing for me. I was spending so much time on making my own content and my arts and my music and my pieces, and and my song my work babies that I lost sight of the importance um of taking inspiration from other creators' work. And I think that's what I meant by break needs to happen. It's I guess this could be like an occupational hazard of a sort, but uh, I've found recently the tendency within myself to like always try to like be in that work mindset whenever, even when I'm watching YouTube videos or surfing through the internet or watching the news or just going through Twitter feed or watching just like being on Instagram, like seeing other people's posts. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And maybe I could like, this is really cool, but it's hard to put words into this, but it's not in a good way. Not in a good way because it was almost like consuming consuming other people's contents for the sake of for the sake of no, actually no. Consuming other people's content for the sake of building my own content. So it almost took away the joy of experiencing art, experiencing a creator as it is, as he or she is. I think I will have talked about this in some of the episodes that will come out soon, actually. But I recently talked on the show about, on the podcast, about how listening to music has kind of changed a little bit for me. Ever since creating my own music, it's shifted my focus when I listen to other artists' music, and not so much in a good way, to a point where I wanted to change it. And it's kind of like I stopped listening to music. I stopped enjoying music, at least not as much, for the sake of feeling something from it and just enjoying the melodies, enjoying the voices, enjoy the lyrics, and taking it as it is, and actually just listening to it in terms of, oh, that's a good sonic. I don't know. I don't even know the the technical terms for this, but like, oh, maybe I could incorporate this kind of sounds to my own music. And that's kind of like the core mindset that I'm in whenever I'm listening to music nowadays. And the same goes with like watching films. Like I've always found so much joy in watching films. And now there's this level of, could I incorporate some elements from this film to my videos? That's kind of like that's one of the things that surprisingly to myself has been going on a lot in my head. And that realization kind of made me it took me off guard, because I don't want that. But at least I recognized it. At least I am aware of it now. And it comes back to consciously letting myself take a break from work and find some time during the day or at night to enjoy other people's work. Just enjoy it. Let myself enjoy it. And being the person that I am, being the person that I know that I am, I need to allow myself to do that. Because otherwise, I'm going to fall back to that, that mindset, that of that occupational hazard mindset of consuming work for my own inspiration kind of mindset that I don't want to be in. And ironically speaking, when I let myself consume other artists' contents and work for the sake of just enjoying and letting myself just enjoy the pieces and the work, it actually in turn uh, gives birth to a whole new set of inspirations that I never expected to happen without me even consciously trying to like grab some sort of inspiration from them. And I would say it's almost like a different kind of inspiration because it comes from pure love for the work that I enjoy. It comes from passion. It comes from joy. It comes from a place of joy rather than like a forced um, negative place, at least in my definition. So recently I've been on Pinterest a lot. Pinterest is great because uh, as somebody with a graphic design background, Pinterest has always had a bit of a bad rep because it's like, oh, it's for like, you know, it's for like the Pinterest gals or whatever, and like all the styles are the same or whatever. But I find Pinterest really soothing platform to be on. Um, especially like, especially once you get the hang of like some of the contents that you consume over there, like some of the photos that you choose to like watch and videos that you choose to watch on Pinterest. And until that, when that point hits when the Pinterest algorithm kind of gets the hang of the stuff that you love to see, that's really when the app gets really fun for me, uh, because it keeps showing you other people's work that are kind of similar to the stuff that you've been watching and seeing, and or also contents that the algorithm thinks that you will like. Um, and I have been like, I feel like algorithms also like get a bad rep because it's like, oh, it's like this robot that keeps you stuck to this platform. But really, I'm having so much fun and I'm finding so much peace from some of the stuff that I discovered on Pinterest. Um, I've been seeing a lot of artworks by an artist named Michael Dumontier. Um, and he has partnered with an artist called Neil Farber, and created a project called Personal Messages, where they create a series of paintings that are like book cover paintings and has very quirky kind of life messages that are sometimes really kind of ambiguous, but sometimes hits home on a personal level. You should check out Michael Dumontier's Personal Messages. It's great. And also the works of David Shrigley. Amazing, 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 amazing. His kind of nonchalant doodles and illustrations and paintings. It's great. I've been having a blast on Pinterest, and it's kind of like my safe haven for me recently. Whenever I give myself that break, that creative break to just consume content, I'm letting myself enjoy contents rather than see contents for the sake of improving my own content. And it's been giving me so much joy and a lot of appreciation for other creators. It's made me realize that there are other artists, obviously, outside of this room who are creating their own thing, who are creating what they're passionate about. And that in turn inspires me to focus more effectively on my craft. And I've been, this allowing myself to take a break and consciously enjoy others' work is freeing up a lot of joy for me in my personal life at the moment. But yes, that's kind of another lesson, another kind of trial and error thing that I've obtained from the whole lifestyle of self-isolation. There are probably other things which I really can't think of. I think it's probably because I'm getting hungry, and I was planning to get some Chinese food tonight, so I think it's just kind of hovering over my head right now, all the Chinese food that I can have, all the dumplings, and oh man. Yeah, it's been great fun actually being able to do this kind of solo episode. But let me know if you've enjoyed this, other topics that you'd like me to cover in the next episodes, any guests you'd like me to invite over and talk with. But yeah, it's been me. it's been Overthinker Society, and thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye.